Hello guys, Andrew Gamer here with a Sims 4 video. Now, um, number one, the update came out earlier today, so I will be uploading a video probably tomorrow, giving my own thoughts and review of the patch. Now, today, I really haven't touched on this topic that much since the release, and that is fairies from The Sims 4 Enchanted by Nature. Uh, so literally after werewolves, it took them like 3 whole goddamn years to finally come back with fairies, which is kind of insane. Um, but really, overall, I think fairies are splendid. I mean, I'm not going to say they're like the best ever in The Sims 4. Obviously, there's a few things that The Sims 3 fairies did better, but The Sims 4 fairies do enough to where it makes the game enjoyable with them, and you play with them, and it's really really fun. Um, so this is the fairy plum bob. It's the first plum bob of like all of the plum bobs that look completely different from any other plum bob, really. Um, and in my opinion, it fits fairies a lot because it has like magical plants, uh, and it fits the fairy atmosphere because fairies are magical uh, plant sims. I guess that's basically the best way to put it. Um, Now, fairies, um, they have 2 forms, obviously, which actually the Sims 3 fairies didn't have because it would show their fairy wings constantly, um, which was, mindable because the Sims 3's fairy wings weren't, uh, they were transparent, so you would be able to see uh, why and how their wings could go through objects because they were transparent. So it made sense. And it wouldn't really break immersion at all either. So, um, but the Sims 4 fairy wings are a bit different in the fact that they're more solid. You can still see through them. They do still have a bit of transparency, which makes sense. Uh, Especially how fairy wings are supposed to be kind of transparent. They're not supposed to be fully solid. This is the Sims 4. This is the fairy needs panel for Sims 4. Um, Very well designed. I love it. They did a great job on it. Uh, it's similar to. They're the third occult now to have a special needs panel icon, or not special needs icon, but a completely different overhauled background for their needs panel. The other two being spellcasters and werewolves. So they have a completely uh, overhaul of a design here. Now, if you're looking at their needs panel and being like, oh my god, that looks so similar to vampires, and indeed you'd be correct. However, you will notice here that they do have standard needs for the most part. They have fun, social, energy, hygiene. Hmm, so where's their bladder? Well, interestingly enough, fairies don't need to actually pee. And this is because they don't need to eat anymore, because instead of eating normal food, they don't feed off of regular food instead. Instead, they actually feed off of emotions, indicated by their emotional force here. This is very similar in the sense of vampire energy, where they need it to survive, and they need it to actually use their powers. Um, Very similar, and just very similarly to vampires, if it runs out, uh, your fairy will die of emotional starvation. It's similar to regular starvation, but it's with a very special animation, and it's with the animation that I hate that I might add. I do not like it, and I actually despise it. But they can also die kind of a separate, different way, but it's kind of more of a base game method in the sense that it uses base game emotional death types to where your fairy can actually go the opposite and actually have a emotional overload if their emotional force gets too high. Um, Now, the best way to really increase your emotional force is you can either use fairy dust, which is a new thing that comes with fairies, and fairies can generate fairy dust on themselves. You can also find fairy dust from foraging in Everdew, which is a neighborhood in Inniscrane. That's also another viable area that you can find fairy dust. Or you can ask a fairy friend for fairy dust as well if you're friends with them, um, which is pretty cool and very, very much useful, especially not just for your fairy, but you can also use fairy dust to enchant plants. So, say you have fairy dust, right? And if you want to enchant a plant, you can go over here and you can enchant your plants using fairy dust, which, as you can see, I don't have enough. I need 11 piles of fairy dust. As you can see, I don't have enough. But um, the other main method of the other two main methods of actually increasing your emotional force is you can use the fairy home, which I do not have, and I don't have the simoleons to actually get it neither, so I can't actually get a fairy home. But the other way you can actually get emotional force back is by literally absorbing the emotions of other Sims, which I know sounds horrific and it sounds absolutely appalling. Like you're literally stealing their emotional force just to stay alive. I mean, that does seem a little bit um, appalling, and it seems dreadful when you think about it. But I mean, I hate the fairy death, and like the unique fairy death, in my opinion, I do not like it. It's easily avoidable though, so thank God for that. Um, but yeah, and as you may have already guessed by now, if it wasn't obvious enough, fairies do have unique graves and urns when they do die. So yeah, if that wasn't obvious, I mean, yeah. Uh, the only a cult that released without an urn or a grave on release was mermaids, but they did finally get their tombstone and urn with the life and death patch uh, almost a year ago, so that's great. Um, Mermaids still desperately need a refresh, but that's for another topic for another video. This video is solely made for turning or, you know, everything about fairies that you need to know. Now, just like any other occult, to have your sim transform into a fairy, you need to have them a human. You cannot have hybrids in The Sims 4. I've been saying this uh, constantly throughout uh, my other videos before Fairies released. You cannot have hybrids. Hybrids are completely not in the game. They're completely unusable without mods, and it's just yeah. Whenever I have tried this with fairies as well, it does not work out. I use my spellcaster and I've turned them into a fairy hybrid, or at least try to, and I get quite an abysmal result. Let me tell you. Uh, First of all, because spellcasters only have one form, um, I was kind of hopeful at first because that means they wouldn't have any other. That means they wouldn't have any other overlapping forms. For example, werewolves have a second form, so give, if you try to turn your sim into a fairy werewolf hybrid, then that wouldn't really work out because they would have to have three special forms in order for that to be the case. So that really, really wouldn't work out. So for spellcaster fairy hybrid, I was a bit hopeful, but let's just say it didn't turn out well. At first, everything was going well, but then I immediately seen the complete change, and that change was the fact that uh, The sim had completely outstretched arms. Their hands were like claws. I don't even know how to explain this. Like their hands didn't even look natural. It looked like a Freddy Krueger claw. Like what the heck, dude? Like it was so weird. It was so weird, and I regretted it. I regretted doing it. Yeah, never doing it again. Um, Now another thing too that's cool about fairies that not many people know about is okay. Hold on, let me show you guys. Actually, I should have showed you this from the beginning. Um, Go ahead and show her wings here. Um, so something that not many people know about fairies in The Sims 4 is that their wings will depend on their personality. So it's not just random wings and there you go. I mean, no, their wings will actually depend on their personality. So if they have positive traits that like tend to like helping people or loving nature or loving I don't know animals, their wings will be more harmonious looking. They'll have a sparkle to them and they will have more soft looking wings. So as you can see here, Tatiana right here, which is my sim, Tatiana Davidson, she's a dog lover. She's a green fiend. She's good, and she's adventurous. So she's mostly good, and she loves animals. And as you can see, her wings are harmonious looking. They're soft, they're sparkling, and they are gorgeous. Now, however, upon transformation, if they have bad traits like evil, disruptive, hot-headed, or anything like that, their wings will look more hard-looking. Like they would look more mischievous looking, and they wouldn't look as bright, and they wouldn't be as sparkling. So, yeah, I love that. I actually really, really love that. Again, not many people know about that, but I do, and it's pretty cool. It's a pretty interesting, nice touch to fit your Sim's personality, and it makes perfect sense. Um, and I actually adored this detail. Again, just don't, please, don't do this, and just take my word for this. Avoid getting your emotional force to zero, please. I do not like my fairies dying. I do not like it. It's sad, especially the emotional force death. Now, fairies do have all the normal human sim interactions, like sleeping on a bed, taking a shower, using the sink. They can actually shrink and play in the water, which I think is kind of amusing, and I think it's kind of funny. And it's kind of enjoyable at the same time. That's also another way of getting fairy dust, which I forgot to mention. They can also play on the sofa. They are also very fast compared to regular Sims because they actually fly instead of walk. If this wasn't obvious enough, so yeah, pretty cool, pretty cool. Uh, Look how fast she is. That is very fast. Something else about fairies is the fact that they do have their special ability tree, which is really really cool. Um, I will say their abilities are decent and they are, fitting them very well. And the design of it is really, 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 really cool. I've seen people criticize fairies for their abilities. I don't really see why. I think their abilities are just fine the way they are. Um, and they do categorize them similar to how spellcasters do. Um, or similar to how they did spellcasters. So they are categorized, so where it's more not complex in any way, and you will get used to actually using the abilities, which is pretty cool. Now, something that I actually find pretty crazy is the fact that they now have brought back perk tiering, or ability tiering in this case. What I mean by this, the last time that they actually did this was with vampires. They did not do it with aliens, obviously. They did not do it with mermaids, obviously, because they don't have perk trees. but they didn't do it with spellcasters or werewolves, which is kind of crazy because the tiering system was pretty cool with vampires. So I'm kind of confused why they didn't add it with spellcasters and werewolves as well. Like, why didn't they do that? Although they do have special things too going for them, so I guess that's why. Um, but I adore this. I absolutely adore this. So yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it, guys. Fairies are pretty cool. I am definitely going to do a tier list updated video for fairies. I think fairies are splendid. They're really cool to play with, and you can do several roleplay options, which is pretty cool and pretty neat. Um, and I'm glad they're finally back in The Sims 4. To be honest, it took them long enough. And one of the major things I love about it though is the fact that their wings will change depending on their personality uh, as soon as you transform, which is pretty cool. Um, like the game's code is directly coded into your traits when they transform into a fairy. So like it takes account for your actual personality traits, and it will determine the look of their wings, like I said earlier. So that's pretty cool. Um, and pretty neat. And I actually really like that detail. And I don't think any other occult in The Sims 4 has this type of detail present. So I'm glad that they took on that more approach for The Sims 4 fairies, and I'm glad that they did. Uh, Fairies, in my opinion, are really enjoyable. I would give them a solid A, maybe an A plus on a tier list. Not quite S, maybe S minus, but that would be cutting it. That would be pushing it. Uh, but fairies are pretty good. They're pretty splendid to play with, like I said. Uh, they're really enjoyable, and I'm glad that they're back. I really, really am, guys. Uh, they were missing from The Sims 4 for a long time, and I'm glad that they're back. I really am. Um, really enjoyable. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys next one. Peace.